So I wanted to, before I go and call it a week, I wanted to go over this, and I think it would just be good YouTube content to give my thoughts on it. I wanted to talk about the gameplay thoughts that was released. I don't do a lot of patch rundowns. I just don't, and I find them kind of boring. For most of my viewers, I'm gonna be honest, most of you guys, I've done the polling. You guys are mostly platinum and lower, and to be quite frank, most of the patch notes don't really apply to you very often. So when I have done them, I thought they were interesting, or they just seem to fall in line with my timings. So the idea is that people have been bitching for a long time that there is too much damage in League. I don't think that's completely unfounded. A lot of this game now is just being instantly bursted by things and not having any time to react to anything. And what Riot is doing now is they're taking that feedback and they're going to try to shake things up to make the game a little bit slower in terms of the actual fighting. Let's go ahead and read through what they say they're doing and why, and then I'll respond to it. So in patch 12.10, we'll be introducing some changes to increase the durability of every champion on the roster to reduce the overall amount of damage in League. This increase in durability also necessitates some adjustments to the surrounding systems of the Rift to make sure they are correctly tuned. So why more durability? Devs and players agree. There's currently too much damage in League, like we just talked about. While tons of damage can be fun and exciting, we believe that increasing champions' defensive stats will be beneficial for letting players showcase their skill by giving them more opportunities for counterplay and to live out their high moments. Lower survivability leads to game states where squishy carries and supports in particular struggle to have an impact into the game due to being one shot with low counterplay in too many situations. When you're dying so fast that it's difficult to tell what killed you, game clarity takes a hit, which leads to frustrating experiences. That I agree with. I was playing Blue Cane. Quick aside. I get coached by Karasmai. I go and I start playing Blue Cane. And I'm just popping out of walls and I'm one-shotting people. And the whole time I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how is a newer player in gold or lower supposed to really be able to even begin to understand what is happening? When we talk about game clarity, stuff like that is, to me, is a reason why I agree immensely on the initial with this patch, or the direction of this patch. It's not so much that one shots are bad, it's just the variety of how you can die in this game is so vast that it almost feels like I call this the Everest of games all the time, and it really does feel that way, because a lot of the time you play this game, if you're a new player, I coach new players all the time, and when you're a new player, man, you've got so much stuff that you're trying to learn, and some dude gets fed and just pops out of a wall and one-shots you. It's just very, like, when was I allowed to play the game? So I agree. I think the amount of it needs to be toned down for sure. On live, combat can sometimes be overly rewarding when high threat champions only need to use a portion of their kit to secure a kill. Long term, we think poor skill tests make playing your favorite champions a lot less satisfying. Another issue we've noticed with lower survivability is that it creates abrupt and confusing team fights and skirmishes when champions die so quickly. Shorter team fights are hard to follow, limit the opportunities players have to make smart decisions, showcase their skills, and ultimately aren't living up to the epic Clash of Legends fantasy team fight should be delivering on. I do agree with that also. Since team fights are one of the most enjoyable parts of League, we want to create more opportunities for players to engage in those high energy game-chasing 5v5s. Patch 12.10, what to expect? We still think that League is at its best when it's fast-paced, high-intensity combat, but now that's gone too far in the direction, we need to rein it back a bit. We don't think any particular champions, items, or systems are out of line, even if they may have contributed to the root cause, which is why we're increasing durability across the board rather than removing or toning down specific offensive sources. Here is a TLDR of what you can expect in your games with the champion durability update. Players will feel that their champions are dealing and taking less damage. Burst champions must commit more resources or be further ahead to get quick kills. Bigger windows of opportunity for counterplay, skirmishes and team fights will last longer. Champion durability isn't the only thing we'll be adjusting. Increasing overall durability has a lot of knock-on effects. Notably, sustain becomes more powerful in preventing champions from reaching burst thresholds, so we are reducing sustain across the board. One subset of champions that will certainly be affected are burst damage dealers, not necessarily just assassins. We believe that champions should still be able to be burst killed, especially when out of position or playing poorly. High burst champions doing reasonably well should be able to 100-0 squishy champions with their full kit if they succeeded in passing their core skill test. If these champions are extremely ahead, multiple levels, thousands of gold, then we think it is reasonable for them to kill a champion with only one part of their kit, or only part of their kit. Only because they've passed their core skill test many times. I agree. For any given amount of lead, burst champs will have to press 1 or 2 more buttons than before in order to secure 100 kills. Our intent with this update isn't to over-nerf burst champions, so we'll be keeping an eye on them to make sure they land in a healthy spot. We're excited to launch these changes 12/10. Looking forward to seeing them come to life. Thanks for continuing to play with us and raising your concerns. Looking forward to seeing you on the Rift. Okay, so here's what I would say. I think that personally, I like what I'm reading. Personally, I think that there is too many cases of champions that have too little brain power involved with how they roam around the map. I can think of many cases where I agree entirely with what Riot's saying off the top of my head right now. I think the state of Pyke mid is egregious. I think the state of Talon jungle and Zed jungle and Kiana jungle is egregious, personally. I think there are so many champions in this game and so many scenarios in this game where it feels like players are incentivized to not play the video game, and they're not only are they're incentivized, you actually are ahead of the meta. If you're one of the guys that was playing Talon jungle when it came out, if you're playing Zed jungle right now, if you're playing Kiana jungle right now, Pyke mid, stuff like that, you've just got this god tier mobility bullshit. Akali's another one. You got this god tier just mobility bullshit in the game, and it's just pulled so far away. The good news is, in my opinion, the good news is, on the whole, the majority of the player population is so bad that it doesn't really affect. It doesn't affect the coaching. It doesn't affect any of that. But I do agree that when I look at it as somebody who is looking at the game and it's, you know, in its complete, like basically looking at it holistically, right? When you look at this in its entirety, you just think to yourself, when you watch somebody pop off with, and this isn't even to disrespect, like I had a client recently on Talon, but when you watch somebody play Talon, jump over 5 walls, and then 100 some support player, and the Talon didn't even have to interact with a single person the entire time. He didn't have to even think about it. He didn't even have to have a moment of like, what if I fail? Like, to me, that just sucks for the game. I don't really like that vibe of like players trying to just murder each other and ignore waves. And I think that's partially because I'm biased, but I also think that team fights are much more interesting, where the stakes aren't just like, oh, we built up for 15 minutes. We built up for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Here's a team fight. Oh, Zed fucking slammed his flash at you and did 1 billion damage to you, and maybe you flashed, but now you're 10 HP or whatever. It's like, bro, what? This isn't even a back and forth. This isn't a conversation. I think the beauty of the game is when there's a conversation. I think that's when the game's at its best. A lot of my favorite matchups that I could think of is when there is some sort of conversation, like the little micro dodging that happens whenever you face an Aatrox lane or something. Or even a good Riven, like when you face a good Riven and you can like dodge her Qs and wiggle around her abilities. Or like the Fiora stuff, like even in mid, it feels pretty lame playing a mage and just having someone just full send on you from a screen away. And you've been fully conscious of your positioning for the entire game, but you can't even move off of your tower because you just know that, you know, one, like you said, 2 moves in a combo and you're probably dead. I just think it's needed. I think ultimately, I'd be curious to know what you guys think about the game. The big ones that have bothered me personally, like I've made it clear, the jungle ones. I've never been a fan of these, like when they went down this assassin jungle line, and then when it was viable in high elo, I just remember thinking to myself, like, man, this is kind of lame. I never really was a fan of it. And I just think it makes games messy, and it turns games into Call of Duty. And maybe they're gonna undo this patch. Like, honestly, I gotta think about it, and like maybe enough players are gonna complain, because it really does feel too like, as a coach, that a lot of the player population, they do really want this to be a thing. They do really want. They get so excited. I mean, look at all the YouTube videos and all the content where it's just like, I mean, even like stuff like Chilney, so people get so excited when somebody's just getting 100-0 stuffed into the ground. I think overall, to summarize my feelings on it, I agree with the changes. I think they're good. I want to see what happens to the jungle assassins. I would love to see those guys just get gutted. I don't want them to play the game. Like stuff like Pike mid. I mean, yeah, I got coached on it. I don't like it. I think that there's a lot of problems with incentivizing players to not think and use their brain, and it also just makes the game experience lame, and it makes the game experience confusing for new players. How is a new player supposed to understand what's happening when they couldn't even interact with something like a, you know what I mean, with something like a Pike? You can't even interact with this shit. The guy's invisible, warps into your screen, autos you 2 times and ults you. It's like, the fuck is this? Where was my window? Like, even Kane, like I was just talking about Kane, like even Blue Kane, that one's frustrating, but even Blue Kane has at least some moments of just pure unadulterated shittiness, where he's just weak for a little while. And you have to collect the form. You have to, there's some skill involved in like getting the form and like putting yourself out there and going for form. You have to take a pretty big risk with a weak champion. But there's a lot of champions and a lot of the play styles right now where it's just like, bam, you're gone. You're gone. Don't play this fucking game. Elden Ring, you have died. So, yeah, I'm gonna close the weekend down with this. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know how you guys are feeling about the proposed changes. And should I follow up with a video when more stuff comes out about this? I think it's a significant change that's going to make the flow of the game shift immensely, especially considering they're doing this big of an announcement. It suggests that a lot of champions damage is going to be booped down, because it's a big patch and they've been hyping it up as a big patch. So once we get more information on it, I will do a follow-up. So yeah, make sure to like and comment and share and all that stuff. It's the #1 place to get better at League of Legends. And I will see YouTube another time. Peace.